All right, everybody. So this week, I don't have just one guest. I don't have just two guests. I have four guests for you all. So I'm going to have them all introduce themselves to you. Everybody, welcome. We'll start with Jeremy.
Hello, my name's Jeremy Meggert. I'm the artist on Monsters Midways.
And Neil.
Hi, my name is Neil van Werpen.
Neil.
I'm artist on No Other Gods.
And then Chuck.
I'm Chuck Satterley, and I am the writer of. I'm co-writer of Monsters Midways and writer of No Other Gods.
And last but not least, Nick.
How you doing? Nick Goodwin, creator and co-writer of No Other Gods. Hang on. Monsters and Midways. I have nothing to do with No Other Gods. No Other Gods. Only Monsters and Midways.
Trying to take credit already.
We have a lot of stuff going on. We can't keep it straight.
And together you guys are known as Defective Comix. Is that correct?
Yes. We were kind of a loose-knit group, except for Nick and I. We live across the street from each other. But we're a loose-knit group of creators that have, in one way or another, been friends for a long time. We've all got some life experience in our creative studio. And we're all, in one way or another, connected through projects that we're working on that will see print within the next 24 to 48 months.
And is that the origin of Defective? You were just your friends and you decided, hey, let's make some comics together?
Yeah. We're for instance, Nick, well, he can tell his story, but, I've been out of comics for about a decade, and I did a whole bunch of work before, but then I left to kind of concentrate on getting my son to college and building a business. Neil was out for a long time. In some cases we're just starting, but in every scenario, we've in some way, shape, or form known each other for a while. And we just want to, like in this studio, nobody's pining for a job at DC or pining for a job at Marvel. We're not holding our hands up saying, please hire us. We literally have our own big old guy sandbox, and we're just playing in it, and we're having fun.
What about you, Nick? He said there was a story there, so let's hear it.
Well, I don't know how much of a story it is. I mean, dude, I was born in the 70s, and I rented all like the weird dollar movies at the dawn of the video store, and have always had these ideas running around in my head, and I just kind of thought everybody did, and apparently I did what every comic book creator hears all the time, which is I've got an idea, and
well, we're friends and we live across the street from each other, and it's an interesting way how we ended up. But I was actually friends with his wife 20-something years ago. She owned a store, and I knew her, but then we fell out of touch. Then we moved across the street. We didn't realize it, and so we drank beer all the time together. And when you're in comics, your friends and your family tend to say something to you, and that thing is,
hey Chuck, I've got this idea. It's pretty cool.
and then when you're in comics, no matter how much you're in comics, whether it's you have one indie book out 20 years ago or a bunch, or you're writing Spider-Man, that idea where your cousin or your friend or whatever comes up to you and says, hey, I got this, what would make a good idea for a comic? You have to kind of, because you want to continue on being friends or family, you have to go, oh, yeah, well, that's nice. And say, well, let me think on that. That's great. And then, I think I hear Aunt June. But in Nick's case, it was fucking good. I was like, wait a minute, hold on, that's actually really, really cool. So
it was pretty funny because after I laid out my idea, like it's like I broke his brain because I think he was preparing the form letter response, and he kind of went like, "Wait, that's actually kind of cool."
Well, it's the equivalent. I was preparing the equivalent of you've got to work on your anatomy. When you're at a con and you're a writer and you don't know fuck all about art, right? At all. And unfortunately you've got a million artists who will walk up to you, even a small time writer at a convention with their portfolio saying, "Hey, would you look at my portfolio?" And you don't know what you're looking at, but you don't want to be mean. So you're like, you say, "Well, I can't get you a job in comics. I can barely get me a job in comics. In fact, this isn't a job in comics. I don't make any money." And they're like, "Oh, would you look at it anyway?" And so you look at it, and just to be nice, you just formulate well, this is great. It looks like you've worked a lot on this. Why don't you work on your anatomy? Because who can't work on their anatomy, right? Am I right, artists? Yep. You know?
Yeah, always work.
I was getting the friends and family. I was getting the friends and family version of that response ready for Nick, and it was almost coming out, but I was like, "Wait a minute, this doesn't suck. It's really good." Kind of
Got really good anatomy.
kind of blew my mind a little bit.
Is that idea what became Monsters Midways?
Yes,
It is.
yes, it did.
So I guess let's jump right into that book then. What is that book about?
It's at its core, it's sword and sorcery fantasy, but it's set in 1976 Chicago. It's kind of everything that I grew up on. I used to get kicked out of White Hen Pantry for reading comics that I didn't have the money to pay for. And then I started like taking $4 out of my mom's purse once a month to buy National Lampoon because it was funny and there were boobs in it. And like milk money went to renting like Italian rip-offs of Conan and Mad Max. And I've always loved this city, and Chicago in the 70s was really gritty and really cool, and it just if I start meandering too much, rein me in. But what it boils down to is, so what if Excalibur and Sword and the Sorcerer and all that stuff, what if that was real and it was hidden from the normal people? And then the world's going to end, and then everybody, like, I don't know, imagine going to get the newspaper and a cup of coffee and a donut, and some sort of mythical beast grabs a taxi out in front of you. You'd be like, you'd shit your pants. I'd shit my pants. And then, like, what happens in this world when the world is ending?
Essentially, our logline is a down on his luck heavy metal guitarist hasn't gotten very far with his songs about elves and wizards and dark magic. So let's see how he does with the real thing. You got this guy who's a metal part of a metal band named Gut Bucket, and in our world, magic is real. Every Loch Ness monster, abominable snowman, Sasquatch, all of these monsters have been created by a dark magic that seeps from these centers of the planet. And when dark magic seeps out too much, then you have huge world events like Pompeii, shit like that. And the magic has been shielded from everybody all this time. And you've got wizards who are somewhat immortal, You've got dark magic, light magic, and in this world, we're mixing that with a little nuclear energy, some heavy metal, and bam, you got yourself a kick-ass fun story with some great hairstyles and some avocado-colored appliances.
Sounds like a good time. So are we talking about 80s metal era?
Oh, 70s.
Like hair metal? Oh, 70s?
Yeah, we're talking like Gandalf magic heavy metal. You know, side of the conversion van, airbrush painted metal.
Oh yeah, Molly Hatchet, Blue Cheer,
Judas,
Black Sabbath. I mean, Judas Priest. It takes place in an alternate 1976, so there's going to be some liberties taken. But I'm a Hesher. I grew up on Iron Maiden and Ozzy and all that stuff.
I mean, we're talking 6-inch leather wristbands. You know what I'm talking? You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Look at these gauntlets, man.
Yeah. So that kind of stuff. So
To put it in perspective for you, I have a Iron Maiden Killers tattoo on my arm, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes. Basically, imagine heavy metal parking lot. If you've ever seen that movie, imagine that with some orcs walking around. That's what I had in my head.
And Jeremy, you're the artist on this book, correct?
Yes, sir.
So, on your end, what did you bring to this book, and what did you enjoy about this book?
I like it because almost everything I have ever done comics-wise is science fiction. And so this was the first time I'd done anything that was sword and sorcery related. In terms of what I try to bring to it is I try to go a different route with a lot of sword and sorcery stuff. So one of our main characters, Dave, is a barbarian, and he's going to use a lot of axes. And so the things I try to do is I don't want to have an axe that you've seen in other sword and sorcery stuff. So I want to make sure that when you see Dave wielding an axe, right, I don't want you to take the silhouette of Dave, and if you were just to black out the silhouette and to be confused in any way, shape, or form, like with a Conan the Barbarian. And so the way to do that is just kind of change the visual language of like the weapons and things like that, for example, that Dave is going to use. And that's the type of thing I try to bring to the book.
Well, what I like about on your end of the art was kind of the over-the-top nature of everything. Like that axe it looks bigger than the person wielding it.
Yeah.
And I love that.
That axe is gnarly, man. I love it.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, he gets it.
And that's the reaction that I want everybody to have, is I want it to be over the top, because I feel like the book is over the top, and the same idea with like the rock and roll and the heavy metal nature of it. I want the art to reflect that, and I want it to be exciting. And honestly, one of the things that I shoot for is I want people to, when they see it, I want them to respond emotionally the same way that like I responded to like when I first was reading, like the early issues of Spawn and things like that. Like I want people to have like an emotional, like excited response to the book.
And I know Mickey's not here with us, but the colorist for the book is Mickey Clausen.
Yeah.
And that was the other thing that jumped out to me. It's purple and green and just these vibrant, awesome colors that bring everything together. Was that something that you guys really pushed for? Or was that something that Mickey did that he came back and you're just like, yeah, that makes sense?
We definitely had talked to him about, we wanted the book to have a very 70s color palette in terms of the stuff that you see, like in the backgrounds and like the color of the clothes that people are wearing. But I don't know if, for me anyway, I didn't give him any other instructions besides like just keeping it, not looking. We didn't want like a modernized color palette just for the stuff in the world.
I could speak to Mickey a little bit. Jeremy's absolutely right. We never talked to him about that. It is basically part and parcel for our studio, which is Mickey just retired from being a teacher for an entire career. He's a colorist. He's done a crap ton of work, but he's never, like all of us, never really been mainstream, But Mickey is, like all of us, a journeyman. It not just his craft, but at life. And so you don't really have to tell a 65-year-old guy, hey, this is what we want for colors, because you know what, he gets it. That's what's really, we're not all 65, we range in age, but there's not one of us in this group, in this creative team, who is under 40, because of it, we know, when something like when Jeremy says, I'm going to get this done, Nick and I are like, well, that's when it's going to be done. And it's never anything other than that. When Mickey says, I'm going to do it, it'll be right, and it'll be done by 8 o'clock this day, guess what? You don't have to ask him again. It'll just be uploaded to our OneDrive. And it gets done with skill and panache. And so we didn't have to tell Mickey anything, because Mickey is a consummate pro, and he's dedicated to doing the job and serving the book. And so, yeah, he's doing a fantastic piece of work, but only because he's a journeyman pro.
Yeah, it's great because he also does the colors for the book we'll talk about in a little bit, No Other Gods. And from the stuff you guys gave me to look at, it couldn't be any different in the color palette. And yeah. I love that just in today's world where it's a lot of, and this is not a negative, where it's a lot of grays and browns and everything. When I saw that cover and I saw just this neon green coming out from the guy's hands, and that big splash or page with the monster coming down, and there was just purple behind him, that just immediately just jumped off the page to me, because it's not something you see all the time, and I just loved it.
By the way, we have a name for the green stuff. You've heard of Kirby Crackle, right?
Yep.
That is Meggert Magic Mist.
Well, there you go.
I did not name it, but we're running with it.
Oh yeah, I'm cool with it.
And that book just got picked up by Second Sight, correct?
That is correct.
Yes, sir.
Are you going to start seeing it published? Has it already been published, or is it coming out next year?
Well, Second Sight is small and growing, but the guys there, they're getting bigger and growing because they're doing everything the right way, and we would have it no other way. They insist on having a certain number of issues in the can and ready to print before we solicit, and so our production schedule is set for a 6-issue miniseries going from April to September of 2022. So we'll be in February previews.
Okay, so we'll be seeing, what is that, April of next year or July?
Yes, sir. April, May, June, July, August, September. That's when the 6 issues will run, with a trade paperback coming right after.
Do you know, so you'll be soliciting Diamond. Do you know, does Second Sight do same-day digital as well?
We're learning. We're building a relationship with Bradley Golden and Marcus and Spike at Second Sight. But I know that they do digital, so I imagine probably, but if I say that with 100% certainty, I could possibly be lying to you, but I'm guessing. I'm guessing yes. I know they're on different platforms.
And then this is every creator's favorite question, so I love asking it. 6 issues in the can, done. It's been a huge success. Do you guys have more for the story, or was this you've got this and then we're going to move on to the next thing?
Oh hell yeah, there's more.
The squirrel never stops running.
Okay.
So, probably once a week I go, oh, well, wouldn't it be crazy if this happened? And I probably sound like I am crazy, but not to reveal too much, but yes, in the final pages of issue 6, the door could possibly be left open for further adventures.
And we also have other series that can stem from it. They can. We lost Neil. I'm sure he'll be back. We have other series that could stem from it or stand on their own, depending on how successful or unsuccessful Monsters is. We've got one series called Life of the Party. We have another series called The Liars Club. That all stem from Monsters and Midways, which we could attach to it or could completely be standalone. So yeah, not only is there more Monsters and Midways, but there is we have essentially an entire universe created from it that we're developing right now.
Oh, that's what us comic people like. Universes. Bring it on.
I believe the kids are calling it a multiverse these days.
Oh, we're up to the Omniverse now, sir.
Hanging about on the YouTubes and
dare I say we have created quite a multiverse of madness.
No, don't say that because we'll all get letters in the mail from people that
from Disney.
Yeah,
and the people that we're going to get a job from.
My audience will remember this, but we talked about how Infinite Frontier last week, the last issue, and they literally introduced Multiverse 2, which I referred to as Multiverse 2 Electric Boogaloo, because that's what you do when you have a 2. So that book,
got that.
That book alone would be an awesome interview and a great thing to talk about. But you have another book also coming from Second Sight called No Other Gods.
We do.
What's that book about?
It's the political one.
So No Other Gods. No Other Gods stems from. I don't know how political you want me to get on a comic book podcast. So
breathe and stay calm.
If it's part of your. Normally, I tend to stay politics free for the most part, but if it's part of your story, I'm more than happy to talk about it.
Okay, well, so how about if I just go in general? So in general, the past 5 years of our existence in this country have been, I think it's fair to say, regardless of what side you're on, controversial. You know,
little crazy.
a little bit crazy. And so let me just start there. I'll read you our somewhat long log line. No Other Gods is set 16 years into the reign of America's first fascist dictator. Superheroes have been defeated and sent into hiding. Supervillains have been legitimized, and a 250-year-old democracy has crumbled. But hope can still be the most powerful weapon in the universe. And that's so essentially during COVID, I had No Other Gods in my head for easily 20-something years. The idea of, one of the 10 Commandments, religious or not, it's a fact. One of the 10 Commandments is thou shalt have no other gods before me. Idolatry, talk about idolatry. And I was reading, I think it's right here. Yeah. I was reading this book on tyranny, which was written by Dr. Timothy Snyder. And it's called 20 Lessons from the 20th Century. And it's about the telltale signs from the, it's kind of like the tyrant's playbook, if you will. What do tyrants do to take and keep power? And it seemed to me that some of the experiences that we have shared as Americans in the past 5 or so years matched some of the main points of the tyrant's playbook. And so I really started speaking to that. And then I found some of the things that were said in public by a certain group of people to be a little fantastic. I'll give you an idea. 3 words: Jewish space lasers. You know. So in No Other Gods, we talk about tyranny.
That's the name of my ABBA cover band.
And so in our book, in No Other Gods, we talk seriously in a superhero setting. We talk seriously about tyranny and nationalism, systemic racism. We talk about all of it. But what we also do is we say that shit you people are saying is so fucking crazy that we are incorporating it in a way that fucking makes sense into a comic book. So here's the thing. Jewish space lasers are in No Other Gods, and I guarantee you it works and it makes sense.
That was the craziest thing.
So it's funny. I tend to say
actual Jewish space lasers, not the ABBA cover band.
They may be in it.
I tend to stay as politics free as possible, but what's hilarious about that is that in my personal life, I can be very political, and I actually love political commentary. So when this book was thrown at me, I was like, "Ooh, this looks interesting." So Neil, you're back.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Can you hear us?
Yep. All
I
back.
think he disappeared again.
His battery can hold very, very still.
Okay, cool.
Oh, there he is. So when I saw the tagline for this book, it reminded me of an idea I had years ago, and the idea of an American tyrant, and then you add that into a superhero world, just sounded really cool to me. When you create the tyrant, are you using the name that we're all not saying but definitely thinking, or have you created kind of your own little alternate history timeline here?
Neil, you want to speak to that?
Yeah,
it sounds like we Neil's on it. There he is.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah. It's visually, there's no doubt about who we are referring to, I hope. But as far as the name is concerned, yeah, we went through a couple of options there.
I apologize because I think the funny thing is that Neil is from South Africa and he's doing this, but Neil went through a few different versions of our tyrant, but yes, whom we shall not name is we went from a version of his family name that it was before it is now. We tried that. But then we decided, you know what? Let this book talk about tyranny in general. Everybody's going to know who we're talking about. So we actually named him William Mann. So he is the man. And that comes from one of my favorite terrible movies, and I just copied it. I'm not going to lie. Brother Man, or what was it called? You know what I'm talking about. It had Dave Chappelle and Chris Kattan and everybody.
Oh, Undercover Brother.
Undercover Brother.
Oh yes. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I just went with Chancellor Mann. I know a lot of this sounds quite fantastic and goofy, but I assure you, this book is straight on. We have some comedic moments in it, but it is straight on serious, and it is a cautionary tale of tyranny and fascism, and we do it in a fantastic way. And I know we talk. I'm making up like I say Jewish space lasers, but we work that into the story where it actually makes sense. But yeah, we're very serious about cautioning about tyranny and fascism in this book.
So in this world that you've created, you have some sort of superhero past. So you have some sort of superhero universe that you're working with. Does this book start on Does this book start with like the event that caused the superhero downfall, or are you kind of jumping right into the story and explaining it as you go along?
But we jump right in. We tell the first 16 years of Chancellor Mann's first presidency and then chancellorship in one page, on page 1 of issue 1. And essentially, this is a world where superheroes exist and supervillains exist, superpowers exist. I think Neil is just rebooting. But when man takes over, something more powerful than superheroes is propaganda and sheer numbers. And there is a super prison, kind of, like Blackgate or whatever, where the Chancellor goes and he pulls these pretty terrible supervillains. Now, our Chancellor is an ex-TV spokesperson and everything else. Ever heard that before? And he basically legitimizes these supervillains because there's good people on both sides, and he rebrands them, and they become, when he renames the United States of America to the United Alliance, because he's taken over North Korea, Russia, Brazil, Syria, everywhere there's a despot, he takes over, and he calls it the United Alliance. These super villains, now wearing really nice uniforms and rebranded and renamed, are now the United Alliance Enhanced Police Corps. All of the military in our, all of the police in our world are militarized. Militias are now militarized and nationalized, and the superheroes are forced into hiding. They're just simply outnumbered and outdone, and so they're forced into hiding, and they have to wait for a chance to reemerge. In our world, everybody with powers is kind of a mutant. It's all biologic, so they're called enhanced biologics in our world, and they have to hope that someone more powerful comes along, because the most powerful of them all is a really, really bad dude working directly for Chancellor Mann, who was only taken down in the before time by all of them together, and they're not together anymore. So they are out power. They don't have enough power to fight. They don't have enough numbers to fight, and they are separated, dispersed, and in hiding at this point.
And so once again, everybody, creator's favorite question: is this is a 5-issue series, correct?
It is.
Is this a one and done story, or do you have a world that you're building that you want to continue on with?
This story is one and done, but inside of it, there's a super prison that's called Cloud9. It orbits the Earth. There's an entire series based on Cloud9. There are some superheroes in it that I'd like to tell their stories before they're superhero stories. But no, this story with Neil and I is 5 issues and done. Beginning, middle, end. That's it. Because honestly, the guy who's the main bad guy, whom we will not name, he doesn't deserve any more pages. I don't like that guy.
Neil, do we have you back?
I'm not sure. Can you hear me?
Oh, that's better.
I can hear you now. Yes.
All right. That's fantastic. Everything seems fine on this side. I just want to kind of cut back because I've missed a lot of the interview. But when I read the script initially, there were so many parallels with things happening in South Africa as well, and it kind of struck a chord with me. And I could also, from the script and the way that Chuck was explaining it, I could feel that he was very passionate about this. So I hope I'm doing justice to the book. That's my main aim with this. So I'm sure people are going to enjoy it. I think it speaks on many levels to many cultures, and it's an international story. And I think it's something that on a deeper level needs to be told, but at the same time, it's really entertaining and fantastical. I'm having fun drawing all these characters and things.
So we don't need to go into a huge history lesson, but as personally, I live in America. I live in New York, and I honestly don't know a whole ton about what's going on in South Africa. You're saying there is similarities to what was going on here, over there?
Yeah, I think there's I think the way I tried to explain to Chuck was also we're on the same track as what's happening in the States, but maybe a bit further down the timeline. It is, yeah, without getting too political about it, but it's unfortunately an African situation. And yeah, but there are just so many things that I said struck a chord with me, and I could see, yeah, this is, if left unchecked, these types of things can get out of hand. And it's really nice to be able to talk about that in a way that is palatable and enjoyable and gets the message across without, getting too serious about it. So it's a great story.
And Neil, did you do the cover for the first issue?
I did, yes. Yeah, that was an idea. I know Chuck and I wanted to come up with something that would really grab attention. So after a few iterations of something, I was just doing a bit of research on American symbols and what means a lot to you guys, and this idea popped into my head. I did a quick, rough sketch of it, sent a photo to Chuck, and he was, yeah, okay, let's go with that.
God, it's a fucking awesome
Yeah.
cover. It's absolutely killer.
Yeah, that cover just pops right out. Like it is so stunning and meaningful, and I never in a million years would I have guessed that somebody from outside of the country would have come up with that idea. So that's kudos to you for doing your research and coming up with something really great.
Yeah, well,
that just
it's strange because, I mean, obviously I don't quite understand the weight that these symbols carry within the American nation and how people see it. So for me, it was just a visually interesting thing to draw. And then once I showed it to Chuck, he kind of explained to me what this really does mean in the American context. So I'm really glad that it worked out as a visual element and as something that carries meaning.
Well, and I think I think I can speak for Nick when I say this. Neil's cover there, the work he's doing on the book, Jeremy's cover, his latest page is just, oh my God. Nick and I know we wake up, and I'm not kidding. I know I do, and I think Nick does every day, hoping that Jeremy and Neil, I've said this before and I mean it sincerely, hoping that Jeremy and Neil don't realize, wait a minute, I'm amazing and I'm working with these hacks, because Jesus, Nick and I mean, and
when you say it out loud, Chuck, it sounds terrible.
All I'm saying is that, I know a lot of people like to stress. I mean this so sincerely. Neil and Jeremy are, man. I'm Nick and I. We are really ridiculously lucky because you just don't get this kind of.
Oh, for sure.
You don't get this kind of talent, but you mix talent with personality and quite frankly the ability to use that talent quickly at the same time. You got to have three traits when you're a pro, and that is likability, speed, and skill. And man, we got all three with two. I mean, that doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I think, Neil, going through your pages, the way you draw just people standing around talking, and I hope this comes off as a compliment because it's meant to be, is awesome. I look at some of these pages and it's just people doing kind of mundane things, talking, having a moment. There's one that's a little bit less mundane. That's a little Chancellor from Star Warsy, and they just pop up and are phenomenal. And that's really hard to do in comics. And I love it. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I
Hopefully you're
approach
still
these
there.
comics,
Oh.
the script that Chuck sent me as almost scripts for a movie. So when I draw these things, I kind of play the scene through my head. And in my head, I'll change the camera angle of it and try and think of what would be the best way of explaining what's happening in this panel. I mean, the words do half of the job, and I feel that the image needs to do the other half, and they need to come together in the middle somewhere. So yeah, I suppose it comes from people watching, kind of observing and seeing how people react and those little nuances. And like you say, things are never mundane. There's always meaning. And I try to just portray that as best as I can. Yeah. Did any of that come across?
I was tweeting the other day about talking heads. Jeremy and Neil have been doing a lot of talking heads. I apologize.
And this book, it looks like it's going to be solicited right after Monsters and Midways.
Yes, Monsters and Midways is April to September, but No Other Gods is 5 issues, and the timing is, we probably would be able to solicit earlier, but the timing is set because we want to come out just after July 4th, national holiday, Independence Day. The topic of our book is very political, so we want to come back, and we'll be finished a few days before the midterms of 2022, November elections, and that's our purpose. With any kind of luck, he whom we shall not name will put out a statement telling everyone that we're hacks and we're talentless hacks, and if we're lucky at all, maybe he'll sue us.
Have you thought about sending him a copy?
Yeah, that's happening. We're going to FedEx. We're going to FedEx or UPS a sign for this to Mar-a-Lago. Oh, there I said it. Shit. But it's going. We're sending one to Tucker Carlson because he's in the book as well. And then we're also sending it to the liberal liberal bias media. We're sending one to Ari Melber. Love him and his rap quotes. We're sending one to Katie Tur, Rachel Maddow, Anderson Cooper. But yeah, one's going to Mar-a-Lago, and it needs to be signed for or it won't be delivered. So, somebody at Mar-a-Lago is going to sign for it. Whether it gets in 45's hands, I don't know. But with any kind of luck, he'll look at it. He'll call us talentless hacks and hopefully sue us or send us a cease and desist order. That would be awesome.
No matter what your political views are, that's the best thing that could possibly happen.
I don't think actually there's something that better could happen is that he loves it.
Oh,
that it goes over his head. That he just doesn't understand. He's like, oh man, this is a great funny book. The colors, they're great. The words are great. And it completely misses the mark. For my money, that would be the ideal outcome, that he just doesn't get it, even though I have nothing to do with it other than hearing him talk about it. I mean,
with any kind of luck, one of the red hats will pick it up and threaten me, my life or something, or maybe they'll send me a message that says, I bought your book, man, and I'm going to burn it. And then I'll be like, thank you for your money, and I'm going to make a donation to Planned Parenthood in your name.
Tell all your friends
Yeah.
to go buy it and burn it.
Yeah. So please buy 50,000 copies of No Other Gods and burn them all. That's fine.
So now that we've all been doxxed and hated on the internet, let's move on to Of Bitter Souls.
I like how you think that this is how I got hated on the internet.
So, Chuck, you have an older book that you worked on called Of Bitter Souls with Norm, is it Breyfogle?
Yeah. A number of years back, I did a book called Of Bitter Souls, and it's a book essentially that stemmed from a rejected pitch that I made unsolicited to Marvel during the Ultimates time. They were, the Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate this, Ultimate that. I thought, wow, what about an Ultimate Strange book where Doctor Strange is a kind of instead of the magic that he does in the regular Marvel universe, it'd be kind of a Cajun voodoo magic, and he lives it. And the Sanctum Sanctorum would be in the Garden District of New Orleans, and he'd be like a voodoo priest, Cajun, and because I love New Orleans, and of course it was rejected, and rightfully so because it was unsolicited. I'm surprised I actually got rejected instead of just being thrown in a trash can. But Norm Brayfogle, to me, is arguably one of the best Batman artists of all time. Worked with Alan Grant for so many years. He did Holy Terror, Birth of the Demon. Some of the great Batman stories that he did were Mud Pack. He was co-creator of Zaz and just all these amazing things that he did. He's the first person to put the Tim Drake Robin on a cover. I just love Norm Brayfogle's work, and I out of the blue I contacted him. I had known him, as a fan, stood in line to get his autograph. Sent out this thing called a letter. It was in this thing. You would write it on with a pen and put it on a piece of paper, and then put it in what's called an envelope, and then you put it into this box, and they called it a post office box. And a human being would bring it to the actual person, and they would read it. And he read that letter and responded, and he said, "I love it. I'll be the artist." And so I lucked out, and we did 9 issues at 2 different publishers of Bitter Souls together. And what's that?
I said this all took about 2 weeks. The whole letter writing.
I missed that. It turned into yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it turned into a story about stewardship. What do we do with the gifts we're given? There was a little bit of a spirituality component to it, and we did 9 issues.
Here you go, everybody. It's an envelope. You put things in it.
Yes, that's exactly what I used.
You put a stamp up here,
right, for our younger viewers.
You had to lick it.
Yeah, and so we. And now fast forward, there's 9 issues of it. I'm getting the rights back right now as we speak. The deal's been negotiated. I'm getting the rights back, and so Neil left us in 2018. He had a stroke a couple years before that, and he passed away in 2018. He's my friend. I miss him, and his work has been, DC has done a great tribute to him, and and his work is, everybody knows a lot of his work. I happen to be in possession of a couple hundred of his sketches that no one's ever seen, and I have art that I think a lot of people are going to enjoy. And there's 9 issues of story that haven't been seen for a number of years. There are a lot of new eyes in comics, and so we're going to do a 362-page hardcover slipcase omnibus that'll be done through a Kickstarter. And then Second Sight is going to solicit the softcover version of that, a little bit more available price-wise to retail stores. So I'm really excited about it. I think it's a fitting tribute to Norm. At the same time, it's a really good story. And what I was noticing is some of the pinups we got back in the day from Bitter Souls were these up-and-comers, new guys no one had ever heard of. But that includes, well, Mike Oeming was already a big name. I've been a Mike Oeming fan for forever. But that includes Ryan Stegman. Back in the day, nobody knew who Ryan was. He was doing Lexian Chronicles from Marcosia. We did a few issues together. And I was like, hey, Ryan, would you do a pinup? And he's like, sure. And now he's Ryan Stegboy, Ryan Venom Boy Stegman. he's amazing. He's huge. He's got a Substack with Donnie Cates. Well, there's a Ryan Stegman piece in there. There's Inaki Miranda. I don't. He's doing big books with Aftershock now and done a million things. Shimon Kadransky, who ended up doing Spawn. He has pinups in it. There's so many pinups by guys who went on to have big careers that it makes for a really cool omnibus.
So it's not just the 9 issues you originally solicited. It's going to be all this extra content as well. Is that also going to be in the soft cover, or is this exclusive to the slipcase?
No, the slipcase. So Tim's, Norm passed, so he's not able to do the cover. The hardcover will be a exclusive Tim Seeley drawn cover, and the soft cover will have a more traditional Norm cover, but all the content will be completely the same. The page count, everything will be the same. All the scripts will be in it, the original scripts, all of the character design and sketches that Norm did, all of the story, short stories that we did with Brian Augustin and Andrew Foley and others, and then all of the pinups that we had, all of the covers and the variant covers, all of it, all inclusive, 362 pages.
And do you know when we can expect that to go up on Kickstarter?
Yeah, we are targeting November for the Kickstarter. So I'm fairly certain by November 1st, the Kickstarter will go up. The book design is going to be done by a guy named Hector Negrete. He lives in Mexico City. He's a fantastic designer that actually created the Monsters Midways logo.
That sounds really cool. So, everybody, thanks for sticking along with us. I'm sure there's a few hiccups in the audio on this one, but it was still a really great conversation. But before we take off, I want to direct everybody to follow you guys, whether it's social media, website, or wherever. Where can they follow all of you? And let's start with Jeremy, because he hasn't talked in a while.
Let's see. You can find me on pretty much Twitter and Instagram, and it's Jeremy Megert Art. Same for both.
How about Neil?
I've recently gotten back on Twitter, so you can find me there.
Neil's located at...
Sorry, yeah.
You
Neil
can
Van
find
Am-
Neil under... you can find all of Neil's social media links.
Okay.
You can find all of Neil's social media links on defectivecomics.com, COMIX.
And how about you, Chuck?
I'm at on Twitter at ComicsChuck. And then I'm on Instagram. I don't remember, but you can find it. Those links, you can find it at defectivecomics.com, COMIX. You can find all of our social media. And we have a Facebook page for Defective Comics Studio.
And Nick?
You can follow me on Instagram at LimeyNick1972 and look at a bunch of pictures of motorcycles and cats.
I like that. So, everybody, I'll have the links to Defective Comics down below. So make sure to check that out and look forward to these awesome titles. And everybody, thanks so much for being on, and best of luck with all these projects. They all sound really great.
Oh, hey, thanks, man. Thank you for having us.
We appreciate you having us. Thank you.